I just, this bit here has always astonished me when I first found this out, that John Swinney even managed to find himself in the position of being the leader of the SNP. In 2000, John was elected SNP leader of the opposition in the parliament. Now, I was fucking a very little boy back then, so this was obviously, nothing I knew about, nothing I had to care about. But I do not for the life of me understand how Humpty Dumpty sperm donation to a sperm bank has managed to find himself in not only positions where he could be even elected as an SNP leader, but still all these years later find himself as a deputy first minister. I mean, what the fuck's he done? He's done nothing that I can think of. You know what I mean? He's a total wet wipe, a gimp. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Spoke, but he didn't actually answer the question. I watched the ScotRail business account this morning to ask about how many replacement bus services they had. And the answer, hi there, no, there isn't any. There isn't any replacement services across the country. In the middle of a cost of living and climate crisis, this SNP Green government are leaving people stranded with no public transport and asking them to use gas-guzzling vehicles instead. What this failure means in practice is tens of thousands of people struggling to get to and from work, more people out of pocket and made poorer, millions lost for local businesses, and the industries that suffered so much during COVID taking another hit. While this Deputy First Minister and his colleagues have 28 chauffeur-driven cars, costing over £1 million to get them to and from their work, this SNP Green government is cutting 1,000 rail services a day, offering no replacement bus services and forcing people to work hours just to pay for a taxi home. Shouldn't he and every other minister hand back the keys to the ministerial chauffeur cars until they get this sorted and get Scotland moving again?
First Minister?
Shots fucking fired from an asshole sour, like. Well, if this was Nicola Thinlips, we all know what would be about to occur now. It would be a head bobbing routine with the gradual increase in octaves in her voice. I've always found that when I've watched First Minister's questions, that anytime somebody actually does make a salient point, instead of responding to the point, they get a bit, Sturgeon usually gets very frustrated by the fact that somebody has managed to make her look like a dickhead for the whole of the nation to see, despite the fact she knew that question was going to be asked to her because she's got the response to the questions about to be asked her on her own script. So the whole thing's pretty stupid. Really, if you ask me, this whole exercise is pointless, but that's normally what would happen if it was Sturgeon. I've already had to turn this First Minister's questions off once before because of John Swinney. I can't stand him at all. He is the epitome of... I don't even want to go there. I don't understand how the fuck he ever got a position like the one he's got. I was even more astonished to find out that there was a period of time where he had a position higher than the one he has at present. But with Thinlips pretending to have the coof, or, she did make an appearance on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, which I'll come on to at some point. But he's been filling in for her, doing his duty as the Deputy First Minister with his fucking hot takes, and it's just... I had to turn it off. I could not get past Douglas Ross and John Swinney's exchange, and that was a few days ago, and I'm giving it another bash now. And, so far it's alright between an asshole and John, but that right there, that's normally the moments where Thinlips would spurg out. See how big bad John handles the situation, shall we? Oh, this will be fucking good, like. It's a very unwise move to point out a flaw in the SNP in their own parliament. You can't do that, man. For fuck's sake, like.
What this government is doing is providing practical help to people with the cost of living. So, for example...
Oh, see the fucking subtitle. Like, look at that. With the cost of living. Right, here we go. Let me guess. The game changer. It's going to be the game changer, isn't it? It's going to be a game-changing child payment. Oh, we're up in the child payment. So, pew, 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 get it up, you an asshole. Right? And then, let's see if I can get 3 for 3. And then you'll say either one of two things. Like, it doesn't matter which order. But it's going to be the fact that we're the only part of the UK doing X, Y, and Z, including where your counterparts are in Wales. So get it up, you an ass. Pew, pew, pew. Right? And then he's probably going to make some reference to the fact that the Tories removed 20 quid off people's universal credit. you know, which counteracts what they're trying to do with the child payment tax. Pew, pew, pew. Right? See if I can get 3 for free from these predictable fucking wet wipes. It's always the same. Same shit, different dick. What the fuck?
The Scottish Government...
So help your constituents.
For example, the Scottish Government has doubled the child payment in Scotland
Well, I've got one
to £20 per week. It'll go up to £25 per week, and none of that support is available in any other part of the United Kingdom, including in Labour-run Wales.
Come on.
In addition to that, the Scottish Government has assisted individuals with council tax support. We've assisted individuals with direct support through carers allowance, for example, and other measures. Now, while we are doing all of that to support the cost of living crisis that's been faced by members of the public, what is the...
Fuck, almost got 3 for 3, but 2 out of 3 is not bad. How embarrassing is that I can predict what they're going to say before they actually fucking say it, you know? Maybe if they weren't reading from scripts and they actually just spoke off the cuff, that might not be the case. Maybe that's the excuse that they would use, but nonetheless, it doesn't exactly look good, does it? Where I knew what the fuck he was going to say. I got 2 out of 3, you know. Joe Norton, you wouldn't have got 1 out of 3. Well, that said, they say it often enough, they probably would have, but you know. Oh, here he goes. I don't know what he's going to do now.
Labour Party doing? The Labour Party is getting into bed with the Tory Party in council administrations around the country.
He's literally trying to mimic what Sturgeon does now, raising the voice up, pointing with his hands, as if he's intimidating. He just comes across as total fake, full of shit. You know, he actually reminds me of the skit from Chewing the Fat. Don't know if anybody's, well, Scots will know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, the teacher who always picks on Kenneth in the class, shouts at him, he goes, Kenneth! And then she'll say something like, you can come back and say that to me when you've got a new school bag. But she tries to give up the impression she's actually raging with him, but it's just not. That's what John Swinney's doing. That's what he reminds me of. The only good thing that I can think, the only good thing about John Swinney, I won't go as far as to say he's a human being, because, you know, that might be a bit too cruel. You know, it's not his fault that he's a prick, I suppose. He was born that way, but I would say that the only good thing that his political stature really does bring to this parliament is that poor little Babe Hamza Yusuf sat next to him. Instead of having one of those watches around his wrist, which will tell you how many steps you've taken or how fast your heart's beating, he's got a microaggression counter. And because he has to sit and stare at that white, bald head all day long and listen to this shit, there's several occasions where Hamza probably has to leave the chamber, kind of like what you see in the films where people take a pillow and they scream into it, or he has to go into the bathroom, do the same sort of thing with the hand towels and go white, white, white several times until he calms down. Then by the time he manages to come back down all these stupid stairs to get back into his comfy little chair next to Swinney again, he's already clocked the white bald head, and the process repeats itself. So that's quite entertaining. But apart from that, I don't really see what political purpose, or purpose in general, John Swinney has ever fucking served since as long as I've been making videos. He has got to be one of the most unconvincing, inept, I would say borderline senile politicians there is. He's fooling fucking nobody with this little I'm angry routine. You know, you've studied too much of how Thin Lips deals with these confrontations, and you think that if you just mimic her actions, you will appear convincing. All you've done, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I can't stand him. I mean, I don't know. It's like, fuck, we raising ball John Swinney.
So, when Anna Sarwar told the country on the 5th of May...
Why does he need to read a script to say that? Like, well, Anna Sarwar told the country. What is it, because you don't know what the fucking date was? Or is it because you can't remember who told the country what on May the 5th? What's he got a script, man?
Don't reward the toxic...
I wonder, though, if I'll be able to see... Which Sturgeon? 2 seconds. Nah, I thought I was going to be able to see if I put the, up to HD, I'll be able to maybe see how big the font is. Because Sturgeon uses well big font. But nonetheless, fuck off. Let's get this back. See what he says. Oh, okay, fuck, man. Put it back a wee bit, though. I interrupted the hot takes from John Swinney, It's never a dull moment when John Swinney's gearing up for a hot take. I hope you're prepared to get shattered in ass. You don't know what's fucking about to hit you.
So, when Anna Sarwar told the country on the 5th of May, don't reward the toxic, out-of-touch, corrupt Tory party with your vote, what is the Labour Party now doing? The Labour Party is rewarding the toxic, out-of-touch, corrupt Tory party with jobs at West Lothian Council and at Edinburgh City Council. The Labour Party and the Tory party working together. Vote Labour, get Tory.
I don't know why they all clap at that. I mean, it's quite funny. I think that's one of the most comical things to have come out of the last few weeks is the fact that they're getting shafted in all the councils now that they won. That's what Thin Lips gets for driving about in her CO2 emitting bus. Bullshitting every single person that she happened to meet on the street. Vote for me for this, vote for me for that, you'll get your independence. An independence referendum that she can't get if Boris Johnson tells her to F off. She knew that prior to the election, or the council election anyway, didn't stop her running on that narrative anyway, despite that, But let's not forget 2019. I'm not going to regurgitate too many old talking points, but let's just not forget what they did in 2019, what's got to be the most shameful example of anti-democratic practice that I've ever seen. Her bus stopped Brexit. Ian Blackford, I just shared a wee clip of that on my community page yesterday, on an old video that I made reacting to him, stood there in Sky News talking about how they were hell-bent on stopping Brexit before they even considered holding a general election to get rid of Boris and whatnot. That's all they gave a fuck about. They were all prepared to overturn a referendum result because they wanted to stay in the EU. They are fucking shameful. And on top of that, vote Tory, get Labour, or vice versa, right? They still will not address the fact that Nicola Thinlips is on record saying that a vote for independence would mean a vote to rejoin the European Union. She wanted it to be a double referendum, right? She opposed the idea of a second EU referendum if Scotland voted for independence. So essentially, you're voting. All you would be doing is vote independence, get EU membership. But I don't hear anybody addressing that issue. Now that never gets talked about. That gets buried. Fucking hell, man! I can't take any more of this fucking nonsense. So speaking of Sturgeon, though, you gotta see this tweet from her. Word to the wise, Thinlips. I think really the whole point of trying to shill for the vaccine, something that you've done for some time. I think the whole point of it is you're supposed to pretend that you have mild symptoms, like you initially said you did, and then say, oh, well, if it wasn't for the vaccine, who knows how bad things would have been. But for you to then say that you've had a real wipeout and you've struggled with a nasty bout of COVID, despite the fact you've been boosted and double jabbed, doesn't really sell the vaccine in a great light, does it? But yet, then again, I suppose when you think about it, you would just theoretically be added into those statistics from around about the Christmas period, when they decided to stop showing the public the stats because there was anomalies appearing. So fucking embarrassing, in fact, that even the likes of the Herald newspaper were covering it, showcasing that you were more likely to be in hospitalised the more boosters you'd had, or more jags in general, when you were compared alongside people who hadn't had any vaccines at all. So if you've been double jabbed and you've been boosted, stands to reason you probably did have a nasty bout. Still, not a very good sales pitch, is it? Then she loves to do this as well. It reminds us all that she reads books all the time. And I love this photo as well. I reckon what happened here with this photo is that she phoned up Peter Morell. She's currently sat at a table somewhere, posing for photos periodically. Photos that we'll never see, but for her personal gallery. She was sat with Klaus for the week. Klaus and the gang, so she could find out a bit more information on what more needs to be done to ensure that she can look like the greatest leader of all in the West when it comes to implementing everything that's asked of her. Sustainable development wise, that is. And So she phoned up Peter and said that she needs to make it appear as if she's at home. So Peter rushed around the house to, clean up, make sure that everything was spick and span, placing the book on the table, ensuring it was positioned in such a way that you can't see any reflections, no female hands, nothing, And the minute that photo was taken, Peter then sent it to Thin Lips, and hey presto. That's just my little theory anyway. Even if she did have COVID and she was sat at home feeling sorry for herself, I couldn't give a fuck.